The thoughts, opinions, and general overall shade thrown on High at 9 News are those of the individual speakers and not those of High at 9 News, its audience, or its advertisers. The statements made do not constitute medical, legal, or financial advice, and for advice tailored to your specific situation, please consult with a licensed professional. Welcome to the High at 9 News Hour, where you will hear from cannabis industry experts and professionals from around the country talk about important topics while shining light on global issues and discussing cannabis as it relates to politics, regulation and reform, data and technology, science, research and medicine, family and parenting, art, celebrities and entertainment, fitness, sports, mental health and wellness, and plant-based medicines and entheogenics. Together, we are building a stronger community, fighting the stigma and creating change. With your host, Jason Beck, joined by special industry expert correspondents from around the country, and daily antics brought to you by Cannabis. Coming to you live every Monday through Friday at 9 a.m. Pacific time and high noon on the East Coast. And thank you all for getting high at 9 with us.
I did the math. Why aren't others? That's what I think. But
I don't understand the ones that aren't. That the ones that fucking are totally pro something that's against them, it drives me insane.
Team Billionaire blows my mind.
All right, guys. Sorry about that. We are live, just so you guys know. So anything you say can and will be recorded against you. And
absolutely
on the internet.
It's a good thing I was only saying positive things about the state of.
Hold on, we got a lot to go over today. So hold on with all of that. Son of a bitch. Sorry. Good morning, you guys. It is Thursday, September 25th, and today is National Open the Magic Day. Today.
Open what?
Open what?
Open the Magic Day.
Hey, open the magic. I don't know what it means.
Like mushrooms or what?
It's a good question, Dale. It's a fantastic question. I'm not sure.
Sounds good.
If you want me to, give me a second. I'm gonna go. Yeah. I'm gonna find out what this is today.
Can Jenny Google it for us?
No, Jenny can't do anything.
Oh. I sense a little tension there.
Strike that nerve.
Yeah.
Every year on September 25th, teachers and parents worldwide read a picture book, or many, to celebrate National Open the Magic Day. The National Day celebrates read alouds, picture books, the love of reading, and students who struggle to find their reading voice. Picture books are for everyone, so get ready for your confetti moment, it says.
Who doesn't like a good picture book? I know our president loves picture books.
Oh, man, Jeez.
Another nerve there, Stone.
It is what it is.
I'm from ATX. Can't hold it against me.
You're from Austin, Stone.
What other days we got today, Jason?
You are from Austin, Stone. That's cute. But let's see. What other days do we have today? Today is also National Quesadilla Day.
Hey, you know they got lots of quesadillas
in Austin, in Texas in general. I got these amazing tortillas from Costco, bro. I haven't seen this brand before, and like they're like the old school things. Like you can just throw them in the toaster oven and make tortilla chips with them. Like they're really good, and they pop out with the air bubbles all inside and everything.
Oh yeah.
Oh, they're so good.
Quesadillas are an undersold stoner food. I mean, really, in terms of the very few perfect stoner foods that exist, it truly is that. And you take whatever smorgasbord you have in the fridge, cake it on, and that's like, pretty much the evening snack.
It's like having a sandwich, but with less carbs.
Yeah,
not the way I do it, but I like how you think.
It's also National Lobster Day. Maybe lobster quesadillas is the win today.
That.
Yeah.
I can give it. Hey, 2 days and 1 day. I like it.
Yes. It's National Research Administrators Day today.
Are we allowed to do that in this country? I don't know. Research.
Sounds like part of the bureaucratic state to me.
You're funny. It's also National Tune-Up Day.
Mm.
This one's for
Okay.
Stone. This one's for Stone.
Oh.
It's National Comic Book Day.
Hey, don't get me wrong. I do love a good comic book.
Yes.
Well, I did. I haven't read one in quite some time, but give me a good Marvel. I'm a Marvel guy.
Yeah. It's also Math Storytelling Day.
Math?
Math. Like 1
Yeah.
+ 1 = 2, and 2 + 2 = 4, and you know.
And you said math
Story-
storytelling, as in like a word problem.
You know what? I'm gonna go and look this one up for you too, bro. Just because there's obviously some confusion today. Amongst,
I'd say that confusion is
everybody.
universal for everybody except for the one who named Math Story Day.
If
Yeah,
a train is
That's
traveling
what it
from
is.
the
It's
ATX to LA,
math storytelling day. That's what it says.
140 miles an hour.
On September 25th, we are telling stories for Math Storytelling Day in hopes to encourage others to tell stories through math too. Today, let's appreciate the ways math enhances our daily lives. Math Storytelling Day is a great opportunity to get children excited about math through stories and games. Math stories can include logic, patterns, puzzles, and numbers. Tell math jokes and sing songs about math, and it's an excellent way to explore math and promote learning, it says.
Got it. So in the future, in the internet age, it'll be known as Luminosity Day. That's great. That's a neat thing because I like math a lot, and I am always down for what, at least to me, seems like novel ways of being able to make it seem more fun, usable, applicable. I mean, my job, math all the time, math all day. So why not, right?
Math all day. I'm not mad at
Well,
that.
I remember when I was a teacher, I was teaching a math class on trig functions, and the acronym for remembering sine, cosine, and tangent, Sally can tell Oscar has a hard-on always. There's a great math story for you.
Whoa!
Is this one of those Dick and Jane's books, Dale?
It was, but the class went, oh, now I understand what a tangent is.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I bet.
Really?
I
They were
can
that
totally-
close?
I can totally see this happening. And you guys, it is also where to go? Oh, National One Hit Wonder Day today.
Yep, one hit and you got to put it out, Nate.
Oh, well, thank you all for joining us and getting high at
is.
9 with us. It's also high noon on the East Coast. And please remember to like, share, and subscribe to us on all social media platforms. You can look up above and down below to see exactly where we live on the internet. And we are live every Monday through Friday on YouTube, Rumble, Twitch, X, Instagram, Facebook, Kick, as well as on our very own website at www.high9news.com. So this morning, Denia Benali. Okay, interesting name. All right, so I'm probably murdering it, but whatever. Pleads guilty to charges from illegal marijuana farms. That's right. According to court documents from approximately January 2018 through November of 2020, Benali, 48, and his co-conspirators established over 30 farms covering more than 400 acres on land obtained by the Navajo Nation members. To fund his illegal enterprise, Benali and co-conspirators traveled to California and created front companies to solicit Chinese investors. These investors were charged cash fees ranging from $20,000 to $50,000 for counterfeit cannabis cultivation licenses, you guys. Denia Bentley pleaded guilty in federal court to leading a vast illegal marijuana cultivation and distribution ring that spanned several years, exploiting workers and polluted the San Juan River on tribal lands. Benali pleaded guilty to 15 counts, including 2 drug trafficking conspiracy charges for orchestrating the illegal operations, 4 charges of manufacturing and possessing with intent to distribute over 1,000 kilograms of marijuana and more than 1,000 marijuana plants, 2 charges of maintaining a drug-involved premises, 2 charges of illegally discharging pollutants into the San Juan River, possessing firearms in furtherance of drug trafficking, unlawfully employing illegal aliens, conspiracy to harbor illegal aliens, smuggling undeclared pesticides into the United States, and concealment of records in a federal investigation. And according to court documents from approximately January 2018 to November 2020, Benally, 48, and his co-conspirators established over 30 farms covering more than 400 acres on land obtained by the Navajo Nation members. And to fund this illegal enterprise, Benally and co-conspirator traveled to California and created front companies to solicit Chinese investors. These investors were charged cash fees ranging from $20,000 to $50,000 for counterfeit cannabis cultivation licenses, and they were also deceived into believing they were growing legal hemp, not marijuana, and were required to pay the co-conspirators a percentage of that harvest. The operation involved the construction of over 1,100 greenhouses and employed both local Navajo workers and Chinese foreign laborers, some of whom were undocumented immigrants, to grow, cultivate, and transport marijuana out of New Mexico. Furthermore, Benally constructed an illegal sandbag dam on the San Juan River and filled in a river channel to irrigate the crops by dumping sand, rocks, and agricultural waste, which constituted an unpermitted discharge of pollutants into a federally protected waterway, violating the Clean Water Act. The criminal enterprise was dismantled following law enforcement seizures in November of 2020, which confiscated approximately 260,000 marijuana plants and 60,000 pounds of processed marijuana. The second period, from approximately January 1st of 2022 to January 23rd of 2025, involved an illegal marijuana grow operation near Estancia, New Mexico. Benally initially received a state license to grow marijuana near Estancia, but however, state inspectors identified uncontrolled pest infestations, a lack of quality controls, and other violations that led to his license being revoked on December 23rd of 2023. And a $1 million fine, of course, to add to cherry on top. But Benally continued the operation in defiance of the cease and desist order, going so far as to tamper with a utility meter to steal electricity. On January 23, 2025, a joint federal and state law enforcement operation raided the two additional marijuana farms linked to Benally near Estancia. And the raid, which also involved a search of his residence, uncovered approximately 8,500 pounds of marijuana, 35,000 in cash, illegal pesticides, methamphetamines, firearms, and a bulletproof vest. I don't understand why they always make such a big deal about a bulletproof vest, but I don't, whatever. This case, in a quote, "This case shows the human and environmental costs when the law is ignored and underscores our office's commitment to protecting New Mexico's communities and natural resources alongside out federal, state, tribal, and local partners," said U.S. Attorney Ryan Ellison. "Exploiting workers, disentering land, and poisoning rivers for profit is not business, it's criminal, and it will be met with justice. The FBI remains committed to identifying, investigating, and dismantling criminal organizations operating in New Mexico," said Justin A. Garris, special agent in charge of the FBI Albuquerque division. "Mr. Benally's guilty plea demonstrates that those who engage in criminal activity will face real consequences. This case highlights the importance of collaboration between state, local, tribal, and federal agencies in delivering justice, ensuring the safety of our communities, and protecting the land within our tribal communities." And I got two more quotes for you. "The crimes here represent nothing less than foreign interests poisoning our land, wildlife, and people, both up and downstream. Benally orchestrated the smuggling of illegal Chinese pesticides into the community of New Mexico," said Special Agent in Charge Kim Bonney of EPA's Criminal Investigation Division. "The San Juan River is a vital resource of the Navajo Nation and a rider of the United States. Benally must be held accountable for claiming it as his own." And in one final quote, "I commend the cooperation of the tribal, federal, and state enforcement officials who worked tirelessly together across jurisdictions to bring an end to the dangerous marijuana farms that Dana Benally had flagrantly operated both on and adjacent to the Navajo Nations," said Acting Navajo Nation Attorney General Colin Bradley. Per the plea agreement at sentencing, Benally faces a mandatory 15 years and up to life in prison for a drug-related fine, for a drug-related fine not to exceed greater of $10 million or twice the pecuniary gain to Benally and an environmentally related fine of $5,000 to $50,000 per day of that violation. Upon his release from prison, Benally will be subject to not less than 5 years and up to life on supervised relief. Acting U.S. Attorney Ryan Ellison, Justin A. Garris, Special Agent in charge of the Federal Bureau of Investigation's Albuquerque Field Office, and Kim Bahani, Special Agent in charge of the Dallas Area Office of the EPA Criminal Investigation Division, made the announcement earlier this week. The FBI Albuquerque Field Office, the Farmington Resident Agency of the FBI Albuquerque Field Office, and the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency investigated this case with the assistance of the Bureau of Indian Affairs, U.S. Drug Enforcement Administration, Internal Revenue Service, and the Navajo Nation Police Department. In addition to following law enforcement agencies participated in the law enforcement operation, there was the Torrance County Sheriff's Office, San Juan County Sheriff's Office, Valencia County Sheriff's Office, United States Border Patrol, Homeland Security Investigations, New Mexico Department of Justice, New Mexico State Police, and the FBI El Paso Field Office. Supervisory Assistant U.S. Attorney Matthew McGinney and Assistant United States Attorneys Eva Fontes and Michael Pale are the prosecuting this case, you guys. Wow. Man, wow. This guy was doing the most all in New Mexico.
That just kept going, didn't it?
It did.
This was the big greed, exploitation, and trashing land and people for profit, man. Crazy. And can I just say, I'm very happy there was no quotes from any of the Chinese investors.
Yeah, you had me at methamphetamines.
I see what you did there, Stone. You were hoping that I was going to do the Chinese voice. I knew it. I knew it.
We were afraid you were going to do the Chinese voice.
Yeah.
I will.
I'm just glad we got any voice, really.
No, we got through it. We're done. The story's over. Let's talk about it.
This sounds like what happens in the Emerald Triangle basically every day.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know that I'm happy to hear they're doing something, because they just can't stop this. They pick off the stupid ones. This guy doesn't sound like real bright. And I'm sure he pled guilty because he's looking at you take us to trial, we're going to spank you with a maximum, you're going to get life in prison. And sure is why he settled. That's what they did to me. Put a gun to your head and go, listen, this ain't going to go from bad to worse.
Mm-hmm. Oh. It's a crazy world we live in, you guys. Lots of craziness going on constantly. But this guy, he was soliciting from Chinese grows, bro. Chinese investors investing in him, and he was telling, "Hey, I'm just growing hemp, you guys."
Yeah. So maybe I missed this part, but just to re-summarize a small part of this. Can somebody give me explain it to a kindergartner version of what this guy was doing by essentially utilizing fraudulent licenses on Indian land? Did he just come up with licenses and say they were on Indian land and didn't have anybody double check them for a while?
Photoshop, bro. Photoshop.
Was there anything more to it, or is this just somebody saying they had access to this and I'm going to be your broker and come through me and I'll handle all of this money and all of this activity? I hear you, Dale, this is something we hear all the time, but to broker international money on Indian land and it be fraudulent that's a mouthful.
I doubt they went to an attorney to go, okay, explain this to me, Lucy. What is this? Because it sounds like a fraudulent scheme. Hey, we'll get you a license if you money in this, which they couldn't get. I mean, the problem with the financial situation in the cannabis industry right now is you can't go to a bank and get a loan. You're out there at the mercy of people who have money and they want something for it. Then you got people who are trying to pick your pocket because you got money and I want to take some of it. And in the meantime, maybe I can make some money. And when you practice in and around this industry like I have for decades, you see damn near everything you can imagine. And back in the day, people would sometimes just disappear because it's like, you mean you lied to me? Okay, no one's calling the cops here. They're going to find your car parked somewhere in the woods and you'll never be found. Mm-hmm. That's what happens in this industry. And it's one of the reasons I keep railing. would you please take steps to economically push the black market out of this? At least in the legal market, you will consider filing a lawsuit. You don't just go pop a cap in somebody's ass to fix a problem. And we continue to see this go on, and the cops will put out all these big, let's lower the flags, let's have a big parade because we went and busted some organization. Okay, well, why does that organization exist? Because you guys have rectal myopia about what you're doing. You are pushing people into the black market because you make it so difficult to do this legally. Black market's been there longer than I've been alive, okay? And I've been an adult for 50-something, going on 55 years now. Jesus. It's been there my entire adult lifetime. It ain't going away. And every place in the world where they have land race or traditional cannabis cultivation, the government can't stop them. It just doesn't work. So for all this that we're supposed to be thinking, nobody learned shit.
Yeah.
Cops just want more money to go out there. But what difference does it make you have a armored vest on? Well, because some fucker will shoot you. That's why. Why do you have a gun there? Because people will shoot you. And that's really the problem with promoting the black market. Even if you're not doing it directly, you're being told all this hesitation to legalize cannabis, black market's blowing up. And this is what you're going to get.
They created it. They continue to feed it with every stupid move they make at every turn.
I can put a tiny bit of perspective on that last one with the bulletproof vest in this case. Having gone to Albuquerque and worked with people and, the traditional market, if you know what I mean, side of things. Absolutely everybody was strapped, usually 2 guns, but every last person was strapped and everybody had a bulletproof vest. It was like, if you come to California, you run into somebody in the industry and they have a pocket knife and you're like, oh, fucking course you have a pocket knife. You're from California working cannabis. Like, that's just a sign of it. Everybody there was strapped. Everybody there had a vest. That doesn't surprise me in the least to learn that somebody from New Mexico was armed like that for the cannabis industry. That's more like your uniform, though. That's not like necessarily preparing for war is the best way I could put that. It probably is your uniform because you need to be prepared for war, but here we are.
Very, 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 very interesting, you guys. Well, this guy, he had a pretty good scam going for a while. Hey, there's lots of Navajo Nation, 400 acres. You know what I mean? And you just, hey, you want a license? He thought it was like Oprah Winfrey. You get a license. You get a license. You get a license. You just come and bring me $20,000, $50,000, and you know what I'm saying? I'm gonna give you this piece of paper, and I'll maintain it for you guys too. We'll operate it. You know what I'm saying? That's these guys. Well, on that, we're going to roll into our first commercial, and we are going to be right back. And we are back, you guys. We are back. Well, I have a very interesting story for you guys. I think you guys... Stone, this is for you, Stone. We're going to Texas, bro. We're going to Texas. You know what I mean? Because a Texas senator who pushed hemp ban is now trying to interject in the governor's executive order, you guys. That's right. Senator Charles Perry, Stone Slade's favorite senator, asked a pair of state agencies to issue emergency rules to include a total THC in the definition of hemp and prohibit THCA flower, Stone. Texas state senator who defied Governor Abbott's call to regulate hemp-derived cannabinoid products in a pair of special sessions is now trying to influence the outcome of the governor's executive order. Senator Charles Perry, Republican from Lubbock, requested on September 19th that the Texas Department of Agriculture and the Texas Department of State Health Services update the state's hemp regulations to clarify that hemp must be tested for total THC using the following formula to align with federal regulations. Total THC equals THCA times 0.877 plus delta 9 THC. Does that make sense to you, Nate? We're going to come back to that. Perry also requested that the departments clarify Texas law to stop a loophole that has led to Texas businesses selling THCA flower. He called it an illegal marijuana product masquerading as legal hemp. And these requests come in separate letters Perry sent to the TDA Commissioner Sid Miller and to DSHS Commissioner Jennifer Schufeld, asking them to regulate hemp plants and hemp products, respectively, in manners that ensure any material claiming to be hemp adheres to federal standards in relation to total THC. Unfortunately, in recent years, thousands of stores selling hazardous products have popped up in communities across the state. Many selling products such as edibles, beverages, and smokables containing tetrahydrocannabinols for recreational use, Perry wrote. These companies are blatantly circumventing Texas law and exploiting purported loopholes in rules promulgated under House Bill 1325, which impede law enforcement's ability to investigate and enforce the Texas Controlled Substances Act regarding marijuana, edibles, hash oil, and various products containing synthetic cannabinoids. HB 1325 is legislation the state lawmakers passed back in 2019 to legalize the production of hemp in the Lone Star State, and Perry's call comes after he unsuccessfully tried to ban all consumable hemp products with trace amounts of THC or other intoxicating cannabinoids in these special sessions, an effort that deviated from Abbott's request to regulate the state industry. As a result, Abbott signed an executive order earlier this month directing 3 state agencies to tighten regulations on hemp products containing THC and other intoxicating cannabinoids, and in part, that order directed the DSHS and the Texas Alcoholic Beverage Commission, the TABC, to begin rulemaking to ban hemp product sales to minors through age gating, and for the DSHS to strengthen testing requirements. In addition, the governor directed the DSHS to work with other agencies to consider regulatory framework that would in part prohibit the retail sale of hemp flower and the manufacture or sale of hemp-derived products containing synthetic cannabinoids such as delta-8 THC converted in a lab from CBD. Perry's recent letters to the TDA and to DISH's commissioners called for regulations that largely align with his potential framework. In a quote, Congress authorized states to permit the production of hemp, and the USDA, acting at Congress discretion, set out the specific requirements that states must follow, Perry said in the September 22nd press release. One of those requirements is that all hemp must be tested for total delta-9 THC. And under the federal guidelines from the U.S. Department of Agriculture, which regulates hemp cultivation under the 2018 Farm Bill, hemp plants must pass 2 burdens of proof to be considered as hemp. 1, it was grown by a licensed hemp grower in compliance with either the USDA or state hemp rules that the USDA approved, and 2, it meets the pre-harvest standard of 0.3% THC. While the 2018 Farm Bill defines hemp as cannabis plant that tests below 0.3 THC delta-9 on a dry weight basis, it omits any mention of total THC or THCA. However, the USDA published final rules in January of 2021 requiring total THC to be considered in the pre-harvest test. As Perry pointed out in his letters to the TDA and to DISH's, the USDA approved Texas hemp plan in January of 2020, a year before the federal department published its final rules. In a quote, these final rules are important updates to how states must regulate the production of hemp to prevent the harvesting and sale of recreational marijuana disguised as legal hemp in the United States, Perry wrote. Unfortunately, Texas has not updated our rules to reflect the final rules that were adopted by the USDA, thereby potentially creating loopholes in Texas administrative code that have facilitated the sale of cannabis flower that could be legally harvested as hemp anywhere in the United States per the USDA regulations. The USDA's mandated pre-harvest test for hemp often involves a gas chromatography method to heat a tested sample where THCA is converted to THC, meaning the total THC accounted for in the final Delta-9 THC result. When using a liquid chromatography effect that does not use heat source to convert THCA into THC, the USD requires the total THC formulation for pre-harvested material to help ensure consistency across the U.S. domestic hemp production program, they say. But regardless of pre-harvest testing method, THCA must be accounted in the total THC result under the USDA's regulation that became effective in 2021. And once a hemp crop passes lab test and is harvested, noting in federal law requires further testing for finished products sold in a retail setting. The 2018 Farm Bill, however, does not prevent states from regulating hemp more stringently than the law. Interesting. Perry said he's hoping to find common ground on the issue before state lawmakers likely renew debate on the issue in the 90th legislature session, which isn't scheduled to convene until January 2027, and the Texas legislature only meets in odd number years. In a quote, "To the THC retailers that testified countless times during the 89th legislative session that they simply wanted to sell products that comply with federal law, well, here's your opportunity to do just that," Perry said. At a minimum, Texas has an obligation to ensure consumable hemp products only contain hemp, as that term is defined by the USDA. But responding to Abbott's executive order, the Texas Alcoholic Beverage Commission issued emergency regulations that it plans to take up during its September 23 commission meeting. And the TABC's emergency regulations are to prohibit those under 21 years from age from accessing consumable hemp products that will negatively impact the minor's health, which in turn negatively impacts the general welfare and public safety, they say. According to the emergency regulations, TABC officials have learned that many of the state's licensed alcoholic beverage businesses sell consumable hemp products, better known as CHPs, to minors. To combat this conduct, the TABC's emergency rules state: 1, prohibit a TABC license or permittee from selling, offering the sale, serving, or delivering CHPs to a person younger than 21 years of age. And 2, require a TABC licensee or permittee to check the identification of any person wanting to purchase CHPs to confirm their age. A violation of either rule will result in the cancellation of the holder's TABC permit or license, and the emergency rules are effective immediately and up to 180 days. However, the TABC will not begin enforcing the rules until October 1st of 2025, and the TABC intends to propose similar rules under the normal rulemaking process according to the emergency regulations, you guys. Stone! 21 and over, bro. Good thing you're 21.
Yeah, I made the cut.
Get all that Delta 8.
Fuck off. All the legitimate retailers have already been age gating, so that's nothing new. And this is what we knew was going to happen. There was like the sacrificial lamb was going to be THCA flower. Mm-hmm. Something had to fall, and it was going to be that. But the thing is, too, the hemp industry, they've had one of the big backers here in Texas that's really helped do a lot is Lucas Gilkey from Hometown Hero. Mm-hmm. And he dumped a lot of money into helping and doing all this and fighting the fight. Well, he doesn't really sell consumable flower. So if you're a Texas hemp producer, farmer, whatever, and flower is your thing, you need to start coughing up some money and talk to the government, because we just lost a big, by him getting what he wanted, that's a big person out of fighting for Texas hemp. Mm-hmm. And so that's what's needed now is the Texas hemp industry needs to get together, the people that are producing flower and making money off flower, and they need to lobby. You need to lobby your ass off before anything's final, because right now nothing's final. But it's the time. It's the time to get together, and the fight's not over. If this is what you're smoking and this is what you're selling and this is where you're making your livelihood, now's the time to really fight, because Perry's coming for something, and he lost a big fight, but he's going to take something.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, and by the way, the first accent was almost right on. Second one, kind of a Tennessee foghorn leghorn, and then I don't know where you went from there.
Well, it was funny because someone texted me. They're like, bro, you sound just like Boss Hogg from Dukes of Hazzard.
Yeah, you kind of went into Hazard County a little bit, I think.
Yeah. I was, it was funny because the person that texted me, we actually got pulled over together one time in Texas, and so I was really just trying to channel that law enforcement officer. He's like, what we call this here? We call this here paraphernalia. As he pulled out a pack of papers out of my pocket. So
Buford T. Justice.
Yeah. It was great.
This all still seems to be this logical fallacy people have that there's something different between hemp and cannabis. I mean, it's unbelievable. And they came up with some of these definitions before they could test.
Mm-hmm.
So now they got these definitions like, oh, we better, develop a test to see if it's hemp, where in my day you smoked it and went, hemp. And hemp was not grown for flower. It was grown for fiber.
Mm-hmm.
It was grown for seed production. Okay. So we sort of lost all of this ancient or historical context for what hemp was and what marijuana or cannabis was, or Indian hemp. Now it's to the ludicrous stage. Okay. I mean, the best forms of phenotypes for hemp typically have 1% or less. Okay. But they're down there at 0.3%, which is stupid, which restricts, you get a 20-foot tall fiber plant with a few flowers on top of it. Okay, and it's got 0.09 or 0.9%. Is that really a threat to the cannabis industry? Okay, it's this kind of ridiculous shit. And even the THCA flower stuff was just, you shake your head and it's like, what the fuck are we talking about here? It's weed. Okay, it gets you high. And so the entire mindset of why we distinguish between hemp and cannabis or marijuana, it's ridiculous. I mean, this is Saturday Night Live shit, and this is going on in real time. People in the Texas legislature and in elected government are actually spending nights thinking about this shit.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what? Fucking ridiculous. It really is ridiculous.
This is it's a little bit of a crazy episode. So Jason, you asked me about that total THC calculation before.
Yeah.
So here, quick, easy lesson and kind of neat in terms of cannabis, how it grows. So you've heard these terms THCA and then THC or Delta 9. So those are two sides of the same coin.
Mm-hmm.
Delta 9 gets you high, and THCA, the second you light it on fire, it turns into Delta 9. So it's this process called decarboxylation, or in the industry a lot of times, so you don't have to throw out so many syllables, we just say decarb. So what you've got is like you've got the THC molecule, and then you've got this carboxyl group that's right next to it. When you decarboxylate, and this happens from heat or sometimes from aging, and we talked about other vehicles for it last week too. But when you decarboxylates, that carboxyl group breaks off, and all you have left is the main chemical we know and love, Delta 9. Before Delta 9 is Delta 9, it's THCA, and that really is Delta 9 with this little tiny carboxyl group that's going to split off the moment it can. And now it's going to get you high. So what do we say about this kind of stuff? Little bits of information. One, that little carboxyl group is responsible for, so that 0.877.
Yeah.
So that equates to 12.3%. Or if you think about it, that's 87.7%.
How does a number that's not even a whole number equate for a whole number in a percentage? Because that doesn't make sense to me.
I'll explain it. It's how they.
You get it, Dale? You get what I'm saying, Dale?
They basically idiot-proof the calculation, and so this is how it's represented. So bear with me. Think about this as two different numbers: 87.7% and 12.3%. So
Okay.
if you have a reduce,
hold on. What are you saying, Dale? What are you saying?
Sorry,
I didn't mean to cut you off there, but Jason, there's an entire area of math that deals with numbers between 1 and 0. Let me just start there. That's what Nate's talking about.
But you know, Dale, today is
even less than that.
Well, today is math storytelling day. You know what I'm saying? So, it's I guess this is appropriate,
got
right?
me.
Yeah.
I was going to say, this is perfect for Math Story Day.
Yes.
So here's a way of looking at it. When you multiply your cannabis against a number like 0.877, you're doing a 12.3% relative reduction of the THC.
Mm-hmm.
The reason why you are doing that is because the difference in weight between the delta 9 molecule, delta 9 THC, and the THCA molecule is that 12.3%. In other words, when you decarboxylate that small carboxyl group, which accounts for 12.3% of the overall molecular weight, breaks off, and what you're left is that. So in short, let's just say you were in a laboratory and you started with 1,000 milligrams of THCA and your job was to decarboxylate. Let's say you did it perfectly, you would end up with 877 milligrams of delta 9 THC.
Did you follow that, Stone?
Yeah.
You did.
I did. I followed it. It was a good.
Yeah, your face said you followed that all the way.
I'm there with it.
Yeah.
800 milligrams. Give it to me.
Nate, you almost sounded like an IRS agent with all that ridiculous mathematical equations.
It shouldn't be ridiculous. It's how our favorite plant works. Just throwing it out there. So again, just to put it out there, if you start with 1,000 milligrams of THCA and you decarboxylated all of it, so let's say it was 1,000 milligram dab or whatever have you.
1,000 milligrams.
It's
just 1,000 milligrams.
THCA.
Yeah.
What you would take into your system would be 877 milligrams of delta 9 because there's a 12.3% loss, or you lost 123 milligrams in decarboxylation. That was part of a carboxyl group.
Hold on a second.
That just flittered away the moment you lit it on fire.
All right, hold on a second. All right, so now, but also too, that doesn't mean that your body is absorbing that much, because your body has a threshold for how much it's actually able to absorb as well. And a lot of that goes as waste.
Right. I've argued about it, that why are we doing a calculation of what happens to a product versus what is the actual labeled amount, which is what I personally believe we should be showing, because your same point exists perfectly for like caloric count and other types of areas, like in terms of dietary health. Just because, for instance, it says it on the label doesn't mean that you're absorbing it. So why indeed is the government involved in forcing a calculation prior to your body absorbing it, which is going to happen at a questionable level.
And let me just throw this kind of analogy out there so people at home understand exactly what I'm saying. Is basically this is like a sponge can only soak up so much water. You can leave a sponge underneath a faucet and it's going to continue to pour water over that sponge, but that sponge is only capable of absorbing so much water, regardless whether you have it, for an hour or for 10 seconds. That sponge can only hold so much amount of water. And so it's basically the same type of scenario with your body. You're only able to absorb X number amount of THC per time period, or until it gets out of your system.
That's a different principle. You would be kind of correct in your sponge analogy.
Okay.
If you said that the difference between a wet sponge and a dry sponge is always constant. And in this way, that's kind of what they're suggesting here, is that THCA reduction to delta 9 is mathematically always a constant, although there are a lot of other factors to your credit. There's the factors of how our body absorbs it. There is the idea that you might be destroying some THC as you go and light it on fire, right? There's no perfect decarboxylation unless you're controlling things down to very fine levels of temperature without hot spots or anything like that. So these work in terms of like perfect types of conditions. But what we can say, in another bridge that we can make to what we had last week, is that, remember last week we were talking about how gas chromatography could be getting used by some of these municipalities. And when gas chromatography is at it, it doesn't matter how much THCA you have, because the fact is that gas chromatography cooks the sample and it turns it all into delta 9. And when it does, that essentially has let that carboxyl group go, and you're not getting something that reflects that full amount that would have included that last 12.3% of THCA. So gas chromatography, similar to the story where somebody was getting in trouble last week and saying, no, this is THCA product. And they said, ha, that's cute, but here's how we tested it. And this is what the results are. It's essentially the same thing. You know, you have the idea of being able to represent cannabis as a post-decarboxylated state, essentially identically is the idea to if it was tested through gas chromatography.
Interesting. Dale, you want to throw any law, rule and order in here?
The human body is not a sponge. Let's just start there.
Your brain is.
And no, it's not.
Yeah.
Brain's an egg.
It soaks everything up. It soaks everything up, all that information. It's an information sponge.
It has a blood-brain barrier around it that prevents crossing it with a lot of stuff. And titration is the key to all this. And we really need to have a lot more studies where people take a controlled amount of THC, consume it, and then test the blood and see how high it gets so we can get a better percentage analysis here. But, you know, titration is how you fix all this stuff, because if you got 100% THC and you take a very small hit, you're going to get as high as if you got, 10% THC and you smoke a couple joints. So, I mean, it gets confusing here because the human body is not well understood. Let's put it that way. And the amount we know about the human body is somewhere on a percentage scale between 1 and 0. So a lot of this is just we're, guessing, educated guessing about shit like that. And cannabis gets everybody who's an armchair chemist out there throwing out their ideas of how things work. And as you know, Nate, chemistry is difficult. And when I took quantitative analysis, it was to the 4th decimal point. So, this stuff is very complicated, and it doesn't lend well to someone making an analogy about, what your neighbor's like, or, a sponge or things like that, because it never really works that way. It's great for understanding at a certain level, but when you're face to face with a patient, you can't think of them as a sponge. You got to pull your scientific knowledge out and try to figure out what's going on here. And that will be my cautionary tale here, because we do not understand how all this works. We know some things, and we're connecting dots in ways that in 50 years they'll look at us like, you guys were fucking crazy. I had no idea what you were talking about. This is how it actually works.
Yeah.
That's accurate. And to the notion of how, in the idea, like what you were suggesting, Jason, in terms of a certain saturation level in the body, that the body responds to that by down-regulating the number of endocannabinoid receptor sites that are available. We call this tolerance in our world. So what essentially tolerance is the body responding to that, and how it responds to that is essentially by turning off those endocannabinoid receptor sites. That's also been a really interesting area in terms of study of cannabis being around as people were evolving, because assuming evolution and all of that fun stuff, that means that people must have evolved while taking cannabis for it to not only have the ability to, for our body not only have the ability to rather meter not only the amount of endocannabinoids like anandamide that it's naturally producing, but also be able to downregulate for the sake of any phytocannabinoids that come from the body externally. And that means cannabis has been with us this whole time, which I always think is kind of a neat fact. So the body does have an answer for that, but it's not like true saturation. The body actually makes adjustments.
Interesting. Interesting. Well, on that, we're going to roll right into attorney at law, Mr. Dale Schafer. Dale has been an attorney since the Reagan administration. He has represented physicians, hospitals, insurance companies, cops, corrections officers, and for the last 25 years, he has specialized in cannabis law. He served a 5-year federal prison sentence for helping medical marijuana patients and managed to save his law license. He's blunt. He doesn't smoke them because they're ratchet, nasty, make your breath stink on top of other things stink. But he is honest, and he's unconcerned with your opinion, public opinions, and that's all part of his honesty. He will show you how he can piss up a rope and defy gravity, and that's right, is your favorite Tio Loco, and you can now find him at his own law office at the law office of none other than Dale Schafer.
Hi, good morning, everybody. It's your favorite Tio Loco again. My story this morning is about the ongoing question about whether you can smoke pot and own a gun. This comes out of Marijuana Moment from yesterday by Kyle Yeager, and the headline, Trump DOJ notes significant disagreement on marijuana consumer gun ban in new Supreme Court filing. And my knee-jerk reaction is to say, no shit, Sherlock. We have a split amongst the appellate districts out there. I think I've talked about this before, and this is now heading, I think, towards a Supreme Court in the next 1 to 2 years. We'll see how we may get it for the next session, which starts in October. There are splits in the appellate districts and the federal courts out there right now over a federal law which says you cannot possess and own a gun if you are an unlawful user of drugs. Hunter Biden got caught up in this, okay? But it's been applied to cannabis. And one of the problems that we don't seem to be able to get beyond is that cannabis was put into its current status for absolute bullshit reasons. There was no science behind making cannabis a Schedule I drug. It was done for political reasons. We can't seem to be able to get past that because that continues to provide ammunition for people who are prohibitionists to argue stuff that's absolute nonsense, okay? But we have a couple of cases out there that the court is being asked to focus on. One of them is the Bruin case, and this is several years back now, 22, I think, something like 2022, where the New York concealed carry law was thrown out. And the Supreme Court took a look at it and said, you know, the Second Amendment says what it says. It's fairly clear and concise. And in order to evaluate an infringement on someone's Second Amendment rights, we're going to go back to 1791, take a look at historically, what do we take people's guns rights away for? Okay. Historically, it's been because they're a dangerous criminal. We can't trust them. They're insane. In the past, we've taken them away because you're black, because you're Catholic, okay, because you're an indigenous person. We've taken them away for reasons in the past, but not specifically because you use some particular substance. That's the problem the government continues to have. Historically, I mean, if you've ever watched, grow up watching Westerns, you came into town, certain towns would make you temporarily give up your guns. We don't want you here. If you were drunk, they threw you in jail. It took your guns away temporarily. But they really didn't take them away forever. And even when you got out of prison, they gave you your guns back. So the modern approach to how we've been trying to limit people's Second Amendment rights is basically thrown in the trash. Because we're going to go back and look historically how we've dealt with this. And the problem they have with cannabis is that it's not heroin, okay? It's not coke, it's not methamphetamine. It was not put into a category for scientific reasons, it's for political reasons. When you try to take and apply a scientific concept to something that's political, it falls apart at the seams. Our historical perspective is that we didn't take away people's gun rights. There's a case out there called Rahimi where a man was adjudged a domestic batterer and a restraining order was issued against him, okay? And they allowed his gun rights to be taken away because he was adjudicated individually as a dangerous person. The government wants to categorically prohibit anyone from having a gun who uses cannabis. And that analogy doesn't work historically because it wears off. Okay, if you're under the influence of a drug, you have taken your guns away in the past if you're dangerous. Just because you use it when you're sober, and they never took your guns away. So the analogy today is if you're under the influence of cannabis and you're acting stupid, perhaps you temporarily lose your gun rights. Or if you act stupid enough repeatedly that you're dangerous, maybe you lose your gun rights then. Categorically to say because you use cannabis, you can't own a gun or possess a gun for some historical reason, it's just not there. And the Biden administration came up with some absolutely bullshit reasons. Oh, you can't be trusted because you're gonna go out and commit crimes to pay for your weed. Wink, wink, nod, nod. Bullshit. No, you're not. People aren't robbing banks to get a pound of weed. Okay, and just it doesn't hold water when you compare it to how we've dealt with substances historically and even today. Cannabis is more like a psychotropic drug. The doctor will write a prescription for you. When you get that drug, it says it may cause drowsiness. Before you operate a car or dangerous machinery, know how it affects you. That's more analogous to how cannabis is. Okay? But they don't want to look at that. And even Donald Trump, they quoted Donald Trump in there that, he's wondering if genetically modified cannabis or marijuana is causing all these people to go out, kill people, and act stupid and shoot up schools. Like you're as dumb as everybody else saying things like this. And no, it's not. So I'm hoping that the Supreme Court takes one of these cases up. They're being asked to not take up a case that's pretty clear about being an owner of a gun and or in possession of a gun with cannabis. They don't want that one going up. They want one going up where not only were you, in possession with weed, but you were involved with trafficking drugs. I think that adds another element here, doesn't answer the cannabis problem. I still hope that we get a case before the Supreme Court where Clarence Thomas can get a hold of it. He looks at how cannabis is treated. He's going to throw the whole damn thing in the trash and make them start over because cannabis should never have been put where it is. And the interstate commerce nonsense we've been dealing with, I'd like to see that be clarified too. Because if the federal government has nothing to say about what happens inside of the state with cannabis, it really guts a lot of their arguments about the Fed stepping in and taking away your gun rights. You shouldn't be allowed to be involved in states' rights like this. So, I could go on. It's just going to be boring. Let's throw this back to you guys. What do you have to say about this? It's the continuation of, will you guys please make a decision at the top level here?
Well, Dale, I agree with a lot of your analysis on this is that they probably are looking for a right type of federal case to send up to the Supreme Court. They're trying to, the same way you try to pick judges or whatnot, or you pick a district to file in kind of thing. They're trying to find that right case so then the way they can make those different types of arguments. But I wonder that if that might backfire on them too, Dale, that if they try to find that perfect case, that they may rule that only under instances that qualify under that case would that be a justification, which would mean that every other justification wouldn't hold water. Isn't that a possibility?
Well, this is what appellate law is all about. Because the appellate courts and the Supreme Court never issue a pinpoint opinion. There's always what we call dicta involved. That's just, they say more shit than they need to. Okay. And that's where appellate lawyers and Supreme Court lawyers live. Because if you ask the Supreme Court, the question is A, and you give a specific answer, the answer is B, okay? When I come forward, it's like, hey, we don't have an A here. We have an A minus, an A plus. We have a situation a little bit different there, and so that law shouldn't apply. Okay, that's how appellate law works. Or they'll look at a footnote somebody put in the case, and you read the footnote, it's like, it has nothing to do with your argument, but it says the words, it's misquoting something. That's where it all lives. And what they do sometimes, if there's 4 or 5 cases before them that have a similar thread, they'll bring all those cases up, and they will try to explain the logic behind why they decide a certain way, the common thread through all these cases. You may see that. I mean, it doesn't stop stuff, but what I really see happening here is I think the Supreme Court wants to make a decision that affects drugs, it affects the Second Amendment, and I think they're going to make it fairly clearly back to the late 17 and through the most of the 1800s, where none of this stuff existed, and look for analogous situations. Then we'll fight for decades about whether my case is analogous to what they decided. I don't know. The Lawyers Full Employment Act.
And what did you say that was called again? That method of issuing a ruling.
Well, the concept is stare decisis, where
decisis. Okay.
Stare decisis.
Got it.
We issue an opinion on an area of the law, and you've got to follow our ruling. Mm-hmm. That's what the district courts and the appellate courts have to follow until the Supreme Court changes it. Nobody else can change that opinion. We've got a bunch out there floating around right now from the Raich case, which is Wickard versus Philbin from the 40s. Okay, that's one of the problems that just drives me nuts. Okay. But we've got these cases about historically reviewing gun laws, and no one really knows what the metrics are. I mean, I can tell you what they've said, but what does it mean in real time if, we're bringing in a historian who talks about how we dealt with something, in 1820, and another historian says, well, we dealt with it this way instead. I mean, we're going to have these kind of pissing matches at a trial level, and should it really matter? Mm-hmm. I just think the whole thing's kind of ridiculous, but we're going to have to get some decisions coming out here.
Fair enough. Any thoughts on this, Nate or Stone?
I got nothing, man. We're running long.
You got nothing? All right, fair enough. All right, well, on that, we're going to roll into our next commercial, and we are going to be right back.
Every legend has a humble beginning.
In world news, leaders are gathering today for the annual summit.
I want to tell you something, Che. The government is watching us through the television.
Oh, John.
Look, right there. They're trying to hack into my TV box.
We're still not able to hack into the TV box, sir.
Ha! But they can't.
I've rebuilt the entire electronic system, and it sends and receives signals through quantum phase space. They'll never get in. Engage target.
In other news, local authorities are investigating a series of strange atmospheric phenomena reported by residents.
Ma'am, we're with the federal government. We need to ask you some questions.
John?
Is there a problem? We've been trying to penetrate your TV box for over 6 months.
I told you they were trying to watch us through the TV, but you didn't believe me.
We can't get in, and to be frank, we have no idea what you've created.
Yeah, that's the point. It's called privacy. You know what the Fourth Amendment guarantees?
All we know is that we can't get inside. We want to know if you can create one for us.
What that guy wants is he wants us to make Instagram reels, basically, of just highlighting each story. And he can pay for that if he wants that.
We are back.
Oh, and we are back. Stop whatever you're doing. Make sure you smash that like button. I know we'll appreciate it. You'll appreciate it. And YouTube will appreciate it. Also, make sure you subscribe to the channel if you haven't subscribed already. And all of the articles that we cover on today's show, you can read directly on our website at www.high9news.com.
Introducing QUX Pay, or simply the Pay app.
Where you can pay like it's nobody's business.
Because it isn't. It's what everyone's been clamoring for. It's finally here.
Secure every payment. Your data stays private. QUX will never sell your data for profit, period. Pay friends, family, contacts instantly. No hidden fees. No limits. Spend on the move.
With this patented technology, you can use debit, credit, bank transfers, cash cards, and even crypto completely offline.
Amounts transferred through the Pay app reach their destination instantly. Transfers in a flash. As quick as sending a text. No more waiting around like crypto. Are you ready for the future of payments? The state of the art for money is finally here.
Data privacy and security protocols trusted by militaries and banks worldwide. QUX Pay, the Pay app.
Available as an app and point of sale system, personal and corporate accounts available. Go to QUXPay.com and start using the Pay app today.
And we are back, and we are going to roll right in to Texas' favorite old school Delta 8 smoker, Mr. Stone Slade. He's out there in the great city of Austin, even though it's always got the blues. That's right, it is none other than Mr. Stone Slade.
All right, thanks, Jason, for the mild hits there, my friend.
Yes.
All right. Today we're talking. What are we talking here? Maryland.
Yes.
Maryland is about to let its residents take cannabis reform into their own homes. Beginning October 1st, adults 21 and over. Well, I'm hearing a lot of feedback. Somebody's mic is open.
Hot mics. Mutes. Mute guys.
Beginning October 1st, adults 21 and over will be able to legally produce cannabis for personal use. And we're not just talking about sticking a plant in windowsills. The new law allows the creation of personal use products and concentrates too, so long as you stay away from dangerous methods like blasting butane in your garage. It's a careful balance. The state says yes to personal freedom, but draws a hard line on safety. No backyard science experiments with volatile solvents, but safe home production. That's on the menu. This all comes from House Bill 413 and Senate Bill 925, fresh out of Maryland's General Assembly. They represent a break from the old drug war playbook and move towards something more sensible. For decades, cannabis got swept up with harsher drugs in the legal system, and people caught up with the wrong charges found themselves tagged as drug kingpin or volume dealer, labels for cases that really didn't fit the crime. Under this new law, cannabis is pulled out of the dragnet. Trafficking and multi-drug cases still carry the full weight of felony consequences, but cannabis-specific charges will now be treated differently, more in line with reality and less like a life sentence for the sake of optics. But maybe the most important piece here isn't about what people can do going forward. It's about what people did in the past. Maryland's reform creates a chance for resentencing people still serving time for cannabis or crack cocaine offenses, especially those nailed by mandatory minimums, now have the chance to petition the courts. That means shorter sentences, possibly release, and for some, a genuine second chance. It's not just policy. It's recognition that those old laws were too harsh, too broad, and fell hardest on communities that were already over-policed and under-supported. Maryland's slow march towards reform is now picking up steam. This isn't a full carte blanche. It's a clear message. Adults deserve more autonomy, and punishment should fit the crime. Or in cannabis's case, maybe there shouldn't be a crime at all. So come October 1st, Marylanders won't just be seeing a new law on the books. They'll see a shift in how the state values freedom, fairness, and accountability from past mistakes. For people growing at home, it's empowerment. For people still locked up, it's hope. In the bigger picture, it's one more sign that the days of treating cannabis like a dangerous outlier are fading, replaced by policies that look a little more like common sense. I'm Stone Slade with the High at 9 News.
This is great. They're going to have some homegrown going out there. Maybe they're going to actually have some tasty things over there on the Beast Coast or whatnot. You know, Maryland, some crab cakes. You know what I'm saying? Delights out there.
Oh yeah. Have you had any Maryland cannabis? I have not. Anybody?
I mean, it wasn't. I had my own cannabis in Maryland, and so technically that was Maryland cannabis at that point in time.
Always got to have the best cannabis.
That's
in the
it.
world,
Only the best cannabis in the world. You already know exactly right, Stone. I mean, Maryland is a fairly robust state when it comes to cannabis. You know, they do have a vibrant system. I wonder if the stores are going to start selling plants now that they're allowing for home grow.
Good question.
Let's hope so. Let's hope so.
I imagine they probably won't. I would guess that they probably won't. But
that'd be awesome.
Yeah, there'll probably be some Maryland lawmaker with a stick up his, you know what I'm saying, that'll be like, no, you can't. They can't sell those. The regulators say no, you can't sell those, and
you got to grow it from the seed.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
We would look into law and see if they have a designation for like a plantlet or a clone or anything like that it could possibly fit into.
Mm-hmm.
I want to say here in California, that is actually a designation that you can have as a product type.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, here in California, yes, but we're talking about in Maryland. Maryland, they didn't have Homegrown before, and so I don't believe that selling plants are actually written into their regulations as being a sellable over-the-counter product.
Hey, it's in the mail, man. Hopefully someday.
It's in the mail. Yeah, it's just a hemp plant. We're just putting it in the mail.
You can get seeds now.
Yeah.
Legally, you can get them because they're hemp basically.
Mm-hmm.
But getting cuttings, it's quicker. You can flash something to flowering pretty quickly if you push it when it's a cutting. So it helps. But there's an entire market out there that's available where you can buy indoor growing rooms, little zip up little rooms with a light and a self-contained system. And that I promote that because then the people who think they're in control of the cannabis market have to compete with somebody who can grow a plant in their closet. And I don't need to put up with your shit or pay your money. I think it's good competition. And you're right. Hopefully they clarify this, that live plants are something that you can purchase. And how many can you grow? I mean, I don't know if I heard that. How many they're going to allow you to grow? And I agree you shouldn't be doing butane extractions because I've seen people do this, horrifically as it sounds. Fucker smoking a cigarette, doing honey oil. Like, oh
I know two different people with skin grafts on half their body because of.
Oh yeah, butane. I know. Yeah. I mean, that was the thing back then, though. That was the evolution of the industry. Because if we didn't blow up people's backyards, would have never got to closed loop systems, you guys.
Hey, Jason, I did look it up, and they are not allowed to sell live plants.
See, I had a feeling. I had a feeling that they were not. And do we know how much they're allowed to cultivate, or how many plants each household is allowed to have, or per person? Or what is their regulation on that? 2?
Very low.
2.
Very low.
I mean,
2.
What's the point?
Damn, I thought 6 was low. Yeah, 2, huh?
2.
That's the lowest I think I've seen.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, no, 2. 2 is that's a consolation prize right there, man. That's not you don't have much going for you there, especially if you're a daily smoker.
That forces you to grow outdoor
here in Texas.
That forces you to grow outdoor right there, because you can get some monsters doing outdoor, but it's gonna be boof by the time you get it done, and probably get some caterpillars in there and probably eat up most of your top buds and whatnot. But we did get a super chat from the C Word, who says, "Thanks for a great show. Straight joints are not gay, no matter what the libs try to tell you. Have a great weekend." Oh, that's a good one. Very, very cute. Very cute, C Word. Very, very cute. Because we all know that cone joints are gay. That is a true fact. But nonetheless, on that, we're going to roll into our final commercial, and we are going to be right back.
Oh man, your knees still bothering you, man?
Yeah, my left one, And I'll tell you what, I've been using this new CBD cream, and it works like a miracle.
CBDs? I done heard about them CBDs. I was out there on them Twitters the other day, and I heard they get you high as a kite.
Well, not this stuff. This stuff is tested. Every batch, all the way through, pharmaceutical grade, and in a GMP certified facility. So you're not going to have to worry about flying high.
GMP certified? I might have to try some of this out. Where do I even find this?
You go directly to aimhighhemp.com and they will ship it to your door right away. Test it. It's not a name, it's a promise.
Go ahead. Just the two of us. That's pretty much what everyone sings in Maryland. Just the two of us. But nonetheless, we're gonna roll right into Mr. Nate Winokur. Nate founded one of the greatest testing labs here in California and was unjustly charged and forced to give up his license unjustly by the DCC. And now he is teaching cannabis individuals, people that are kind of curious, all about the nuances of testing cannabis consumption and what to do and not to do with teaching bud. That's right, it is none other than Mr. Nate Winokur.
Appreciate that so much, brother. Thank you guys for having me. And today's story is off of Cannabis Science and Technology. And it's about cannabis and driving. A new study examines residual effects on performance. Fun stuff. Cannabis use history and demographics showed no correlation with driving performance after 48 hours of abstinence. Smoking cannabis appears to have no impairing effect on driving abilities after a period of abstinence, a recent published study demonstrated. Noting a lack of research in this area, researchers aim to examine the effects of cannabis on cognition and memory in real-life situations, such as driving performance. In particular, they focused on associations between demographics, cannabis use history, and simulated driving performance after at least 48 hours of cannabis abstinence. The study, Short-Term Residual Effects of Smoked Cannabis on Simulated Driving, was published in Psychopharmacology in September 2025, and this study was split into two parts: a driving simulator with cannabis users and a comparison between participants with the highest cannabis use and non-cannabis users. The phase of the study involved 191 healthy participants, all users of cannabis to varying degrees. They completed 25-minute simulator after at least 48 hours of abstinence from cannabis with composite drive score, used a CDS, used to measure driving related variables. Researchers found no relationship between the CDS, cannabis use history, demographics, or cannabinoid content in blood samples. Next, the researchers conducted a pilot study involving a subset of 18 of the cannabis users who had the most frequent cannabis use, which is smoked and at least 1 gram of cannabis on 28 of the past 30 days. That's nothing. At a group of 12 control participants with no cannabis use. Both groups completed driving measures with CDS tracked. In this study, no differences were seen on CDS or driving performance between the groups. Limitations and next steps for cannabis research suggest that small sample sizes for both studies being noted as one of the limitations in the experiment. Additionally, the data did not account for cannabis withdrawal symptoms or measure reaction time during the driving simulation. Simulation was conducted in controlled lab settings with a relatively simple traffic simulator, making the application to real-world settings unclear. Overall, though, the results demonstrated no dose-dependent effect or residual short-term effects on driving performance. The researchers suggested that additional studies on short-term residual effects from cannabis smoking on driving should utilize more complex driving tasks, larger control groups, and control for confounding variables. We did not find any relationship between driving performance and cannabis use history or time of abstinence, nor blood THC concentrations, explained the study author Kyle Mastropietro in a press release from UCSD. Of note, the most intensive users from the group, who mostly used cannabis daily and smoked an average of 4 joints per day, that's more like it, did no worse during this period of abstinence than a healthy non-using comparison group. The press release added that this is the largest study of its kind to date. Additionally, the results may have implications for policies surrounding determinations of cannabis intoxication. The findings add to the growing body of evidence that relying on blood THC concentrations in regular cannabis users as possible indicators of impairment is not justified, given that THC may be detectable days or longer after use, weeks, clearly. Stated senior author Thomas Marcotte, PhD, professor of psychiatry at UC San Diego. The findings reinforce the challenges in relating findings from cognitive testing in very frequent users who are abstinent to how they might function during real-world overlearned behaviors like driving. So this is kind of awesome stuff, not because it's really, I'm sure, blowing any listener's mind right now, but because we're actually putting these milestones into place. And that's why I want to talk about this story. I also wanted to give the opportunity to tell one of the better stoner jokes I feel like I know, which is, what's the difference between, when driving, a drunk and a stoner? The answer is that a drunk while driving will come up to a stop sign and blaze right through it. So dangerous. The stoner will actually stop at that stop sign and wait for it to turn green. I'd like to hear what you guys think. How do you guys go?
Oh, man, Nate, you're a funny guy, bro. You're a funny guy.
Thanks, bro.
Yes.
I try.
Stone, you ever seen a green stop sign in Texas?
Have not. I've waited for so long and they just never changed.
They never changed.
I have waited before. That's absolutely been me, at least a couple of times in this life.
That is true, though. The studies do show, though, that is true, that stone drivers will stop at stop signs longer and use extra care. You don't get the same rush for adrenaline and speed that you get in regards with alcohol consumption. So that part is totally true. Nate hit that right on the head. How long are they saying in this study? Because we covered a similar story earlier this week. This is not the same one, though, I don't believe. Did they say how long it takes for you to lose impairment?
They studied after 48 hours as a means of testing. I really like that they brought in a question of blood analysis into this, which, I mean, to suggest that it stays around for just a couple of days is massively underselling it.
Yeah.
I used to work in smoke shops and people would come in buying kits after having abstained for literal weeks.
Yeah.
And so being able to correlate somebody's cannabis usage with what's actually detectable is complete BS. And I like that that's been brought to light here, and I hope to continue to see that. Now, for what kind of cannabis use you'll see and how long and how it hangs out, I mean, it really depends on the person and so many different conditions. If you're quick metabolism, don't have much fat, and smoke one joint, I mean, it's in and out literally within a couple of days. If you're, a little bit huskier, it's going to hang out potentially a hell of a lot longer.
I didn't catch. Did all the people polled or whatever that was tested? Did they all have the same consumption method, or was that covered in there?
It says smoking. It suggests everybody. It suggests everybody was combusting. Yeah.
I do love this. I love that they're showing, how the blood test doesn't work because, it's in your system, but it's not impairing you. I would love to see them expand that and do a while just smoke test, 8-hour mark, and then do try them at 24 and whatever. I'd like to, because I don't think they're going to see much difference throughout the whole thing. I think you're going to see a safe person as obviously as opposed to a drinking person.
That's right. And to Jason, answer your question, 48 hours, I mean, to me seems a little extreme. I can tell you that I probably would never last 48 hours if I could, fashion it from one joint to the next. I mean, I burn through about 3 on your average show right here. So that's, I wouldn't normally suggest that, but at the same time, I would consider myself, although I could see the argument against smoking and driving, and I wouldn't necessarily make that here. I do think that if you're not in the throes and the peak of your high, you're probably safe to drive. I think most people here and out of everybody you've known would probably agree with that.
I think that's fair. I think and I said this the other day. I think when it comes to stone driving, I think the people that you need to watch out for the most are people that are new to cannabis, people that are just trying it out, that haven't that don't know their levels or their comfortability as far as what they're able to do. But I think the seasoned cannabis user, I don't really see a problem. And if there is a problem, they generally will admit it. I haven't seen anybody. I have seen people say, "Oh, you know what, bro? I can't drive." I've seen people literally say that. And I've seen people plenty of times say that I'm fine to drive and then be fine to drive. So I think alcohol, creates a lot of dissolution, where I think cannabis helps maybe more enlighten your perception of reality, I would say. You like what I did there, Dale?
Well, this continues to irritate me. That they're trying to at some level compare cannabis to alcohol, and that's where the simple mindset goes. But it's not comparable, and that's the problem with their argument. They don't want to admit that cannabis and alcohol are metabolized totally different. Alcohol affects the brain stem, which is psychomotor, and you shouldn't be driving if you're all fucked up on alcohol because you really can't control psychomotor stuff. It lowers inhibitions, which cannabis doesn't seem to do. So yeah, rather than just, stopping there and waiting for somebody, I'm going to race the next guy that comes by. Yeah, fucking stupid.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of this, they want to have a test you can do to show you're impaired because the cops don't want to have to go out and try to do a field sobriety test. They have a lot of trouble proving.
Mm-hmm.
And so a lot of this stuff is trying to put a square peg into a round hole, and it's just not going to fit. As I said earlier, cannabis is more comparable to some of the other prescribed psychotropic drugs. It may have an impact on you, and you should be careful before you use them and try to drive or operate machinery. You know what the effects are. What I teach my clients and my children, alcohol, wait an hour for each drink. Cannabis, unless you're really sure, wait an hour. Okay, it's not going to hurt you. I mean, if you got to run less than an hour, that's great. But just, give it that time. Make sure you're okay, and I'll be there to support you. Okay, but if you're and especially if you're naive and you're eating, you're consuming through the method of the GI tract, holy shit. You should not take a gummy and go get in the car and drive. That's foolish. You should go to jail for stupid shit like that. People should tell you, don't do that. Because somebody gives you a 100 milligram gummy you've never used before, you're going to pass out driving a car. Yeah. And that's terrible advice.
Yeah, and on top of that, Dale, they're probably gonna think that they're fine to drive, and all of a sudden it's gonna hit them like a ton of bricks when they're out there on the road.
It does.
Yeah,
it does. See, this is why the discussion of method of administration, the effects with each method, how long you expect the acute effects to be from consuming through your lungs, or maybe titrate under your tongue, where you get THC directly into the bloodstream. That's a different effect than if it goes through the hepatic portal system, which is when your gut gets it. It goes through the liver. Now it becomes a different chemical, and it's just, we need to talk about that honestly. Because if you drink a beer or take a shot of whiskey, the alcohol effect is exactly the same.
Yep.
Ain't going to be different.
Exactly.
If you eat a 100 milligram gummy and then you take a couple, and somebody else take a couple hits off a joint, you are not going to have the same effect.
Yeah.
So there's names for that, actually, Dale. Sorry to interrupt, but 11-hydroxy-THC is that hepatic pathway metabolite of THC, and 11-hydroxy is considered to be up to 5 times stronger. So if you were to think of smoking a 25% joint, what's 25% cannabis, 250 milligrams per gram, 1 gram joint, 25%, you're smoking 250 milligrams. I hope you guys followed that math right there. If you ate 250 milligrams, that would floor you. That would absolutely floor you. And the reason is because of what Dale was just alluding to. 11-hydroxy-THC is the name of that metabolite that processes through that different pathway through the liver. And that's why, you get so blown off of edibles. Sorry, Dale, back to you. Apologize for that, that interruption.
See, these are discussions that, I belong to a medical family. We have physicians in the family. I work with them. We talk about stuff like this realistically. But when you bump it up to a conversation amongst people that may not have that depth of information and knowledge, how do you simplify this so you understand it? Well, you just said it's 11-hydroxy, which is the metabolite out of the liver, and all of it goes through the liver. When you take it under your tongue as an enema or as a suppository through the skin and through your lungs, you get THC in the bloodstream. And titration that way, when you get too fucked up, you just stop, okay? And you get back to a place where you're comfortable very quickly titrating that way. Problem with a gummy is that I've seen it take over an hour to kick in, and then once it kicks in, it kicks your ass. You don't want to be driving a car when that happens. Okay, it's that simple. These are honest discussions to have with people. Don't drive after a gummy, okay, unless you really, really know what you're doing. And wait an hour after you smoke a joint. Not that difficult to do.
That's fair.
Yeah.
That's fair,
Totally.
fair. Again, and I said this other day, and we'll close out on this, is the fact that I do look forward to the possible time where you can go to one of these driving simulators and smoke a joint and pass a driving test, and then maybe you'll get like a little weed leaf emblem on your driver's license saying that it's okay for you to, you know what I'm saying, to smoke and drive.
I'll give you some tickets. You can get a free fuzzy doll or something.
Yeah, exactly. You know, like they have the little donor sticker on they put on your ID. You know what I mean? It's just, you know,
sticker.
Yeah, put a little weed leaf on there. You know, mark safe. You know,
I like the achievement system. That's a really good idea, Jason.
Yeah.
That needs to be rolled out yesterday.
Exactly. I literally rolled out. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Yes, that was a good pun right there. Well, one final story for you guys today on this Thursday. Oh, man, because the ongoing cannabis workers' strike in 2 states are the longest in industry history, you guys. That's right. Separate ongoing strikes at cannabis businesses in 2 states are now the longest work stoppages in the history of the country's $32 billion legal marijuana industry. As actors in both situations push the Trump administration to step in, overall conditions in both the cannabis industry and the larger American economy suggest more unrest could follow, despite a worsening scenario for workers in certain markets, observers say. 2 strikes are at Exclusive Brands in Ann Arbor, Michigan, a vertically integrated operator active only in that state that began on August 28th. And profitable marijuana multi-state operator Green Thumb Industries, better known as GTI, their Rise location in York, Pennsylvania, that started on September 1st. And as another side note, I did see that a Canadian company went on strike today as well, but is unrelated to this article. An uncoordinated coincidence, the simultaneous stoppages, already more than a week longer than the previous longest 13-day strike in April of 2023, differ widely because a small band of Exclusive Brands workers called a strike in part because management refuses to recognize a union election, while the unionized Rise workers voted to strike after more than a year of contract negotiations. The former is focused on educating the public and getting media attention for their cause. The latter is interrupting business as a leverage in negotiations, said Maggie Gray, a political science professor at Adelphi University in Garden City, New York, who published on labor issues. In a quote, she says, So these strikes have different goals, she added. What they do have in common is that there is a saturation in the cannabis market. Marijuana industry strikes, marijuana industry struggles, well, because once seen as organized labor's best chance for growth in decades after a long decline, the cannabis industry's recent struggles suggest that there's less in the way of profits or resources for management and workers to fight over. And at the same time, a relatively tight labor market and continued steady increase in the cost of housing, groceries, and other goods mean workers are likely to agitate for higher wages or seek other employment if compensation doesn't keep track, observers said. And in the case of Pennsylvania, the strike comes in what most cannabis operators agree are ideal conditions for profitability, a limited license market. The strikes also come during a period of relative stagnation for union efforts following a flurry of organizing activity under the Biden administration, and in several states, cannabis workers have voted to de-unionize after organizations' efforts failed to produce better pay and conditions. Well, look at that. They smartened up. Critics say that's partially because marijuana companies have successfully squashed unions using tactics employed in other sectors. And the return of President Donald J. Trump and a staunchly pro-business agenda to Washington means more employers may feel emboldened to oppose organizing efforts and to use a pro-business National Labor Relations Board to rewrite Biden-era rules. But first, cannabis workers strikes in Trump era after Biden wins because that's what union sympathizers say is happening in Ann Arbor, Michigan. There, 4 employees of Exclusive Brands organized by the United Food and Commercial Workers Union went on strike on August 28th, and after company leadership allegedly filed a pro-union worker amid a unionization drive, according to the union. In a quote, they say, It's just ironic because this company claims to stand for social equity, but are denying that for its own workers, said Emily Hull, a striking worker. However, the vast majority remain on the job, and the company publicly claims more than 200 are still working, though in federal filings, Exclusive claims a total workforce of 125. Exclusive Brands did not respond to a request for comment prior to this publication, and in York, Pennsylvania, unionized workers at the location of Rise agreed to stop work on September 1st after company officials refused to resume contract negotiations, said Mark Cisak, an organizer with International Brotherhood of Teamsters Local 776. All 8 workers in the bargaining unit, which unionized last summer, are on strike, he said, and both strikes remained ongoing as of Wednesday. But the businesses remain open, and in a statement to MJ Biz Daily, a GTI spokesperson said the company's, in quotes, last, best, and final offer included meaningful wage increases and comprehensive benefits and is based on a market analysis of Pennsylvania's medical-only industry. Workers there start at $16 an hour and max out at $17.65, Cisak said, and they want a minimum starting wage of $18, he said, exactly what striking Green Thumb workers in the Chicago area received after a 13-day strike in April of 2023. 2 cannabis worker strikes in 2 very different marijuana markets, and the 2 strikes come in 2 very different business environments. Michigan's relatively mature adult use market industry has no license caps, but competition and market saturation means some operators are exiting as others scale back, despite projected annual sales as much as $3.89 billion in 2025. And in contrast, Pennsylvania's robust $1.7 billion annual market remains medical only, and it's considered a top source of potential growth for the legal industry once lawmakers legalize cannabis for adult use. But in the meantime, the state's limit on the number of permits allowed is what MSOs identify in regulatory filings as the ideal operating conditions, and appeals to the Trump administration amid publicly traded revelations. As MJ Biz Daily reported, Exclusive Brands recently appealed to the National Labor Relations Board for a declaration that the business is illegal. The hope is that the NLRB will find federal cannabis prohibition means that federal labor law doesn't apply and workers can be fired for pursuing unionization, otherwise a legally protected activity. Oh, that's an interesting tactic. But meanwhile, the Teamsters on August 28th filed a complaint with the NLRB claiming that GTI is refusing to bargain in violation of the Federal National Labor Relations Act. It's unclear when the NLRB might reconsider either case or be legally able to make any type of decisions, but the Trump administration still needs to make appointments to the NLRB before it can actually function. In the meantime, the York workers are prepared to stay out as long as it takes, the Teamsters, Cisak said. And that's particularly because they know exactly how well publicly traded Green Thumb Industries is doing, he added. In recent filings, the company reported annual revenue in excess of $1 billion with a B, and despite reporting a small loss in the second quarter of 2025 stemming from a sale, an outstanding debt of $250 million, Green Thumb is generally profitable. And that's information the workers share with Rise customers crossing the picket line, which they'll hold until GTI returns with a better contract offer, Cisak said in a quote. This group is a smart group and they understand the cannabis industry, he said. They know the cannabis industry is growing and GTI's profits have to trickle down to the people who make these dispensaries operate. Cannabis capital labor relations is changing as the industry matures, however, because stalling negotiations so that pro-union workers lose interest or move onto other jobs is an age-old management tactic that cannabis companies have proven willing to use, observers say. But in turn, unions might also have to adjust strategy to fit the marijuana industry's current reality, said Sarah Stith, a professor of economics at the University of New Mexico who studied marijuana legalization's effects on employment, and in a quote says, "The vast majority of cannabis workers are low-skilled workers," she said. They could be working at Starbucks or at the dispensary. Low-skilled workers are more easily replaceable and have less bargaining leverage, she said, and saturated markets such as Michigan may have more cannabis businesses than can be supported. The ability to extract rents out of those dispensaries may not be worth the cost of organizing a union, she added. Well. Picket. I can't wait to see what you guys have to say about this. 2 different locations, 2 different situations. I think Rise can give these guys $18 an hour. I don't really see a big deal. They have already gone up to $17 and change, and going up to $18 isn't that big of a deal. But I can't wait to hear what you guys have to say about this.
18 seems like a fair wage. I mean, I don't see why they're fighting it. I know you're not really a fan of the what is it called?
I'm not a fan of unions. I think unions are drastically overrated, and they don't actually really represent the workers or whatnot that they claim to. And meanwhile, these workers are paying into these unions, and I think it's a total sham in the cannabis industry. And I do find it interesting, GTI's wanting to take up that argument with the NLRB, and it doesn't seem like there's going to be any type of judgment anytime soon. So it sounds like these people are just going to be standing outside on the corners picketing. Whether or not they're collecting unemployment, I'm not too sure of, but time is going to tell.
I'm not sure how much leverage they actually have. They got 6 employees.
Yeah.
I mean, my grandpa was a Teamster, and they went after some industry that had thousands of workers. They could close an entire business down, and then they weren't afraid to beat the shit out of you, brought a scab on. I just don't see that being the environment we're in with cannabis. And I talked about this last week, I think, where the NLRB needs 3 members to have a quorum, only has 2 of the 5 seats filled right now. And so you're going to get 3 Trump appointments, and appealing to them along the lines that this is against federal law. You should not be able to appeal to the NLRB to get a state problem figured out when you're violating the federal law. That may get some traction. I do not know. But the industry right now has not figured out how to even survive. Wherever people say it's doing well, it's still losing to the black market.
Yeah.
And there's a whole lot of stuff going on here that isn't like, the Pullman strike in the 1890s or something like that, or even those strikes during the pre-World War II period where they shut down Ford Motor and stuff like that. I mean, we don't have those kinds of situations here. And I don't know if $15, $18, $20 an hour is where they need to settle in here. But I don't know that getting a union to go out and stand on a street corner and picket 6 employees is really going to, affect that all that much. Although I think $18, you should put it into your business plan to pay that, or $20 an hour. I mean, if you don't keep up with the market out there for unskilled labor, you're going to lose them. And working in a dispensary as a bud tender, it doesn't require a PhD. Although people think that they know all kinds of things about marijuana. Every time I talk to one of them, they say something that just comes right out of their ass. So it's like, I don't see them as skilled.
Yeah.
I mean, what Nate did was skilled, running a lab, things like that.
Yeah.
But punching a cash register is different. So I just don't know what leverage they're really going to have here, because I don't think the general public is real sympathetic at this point. But, hey, prove me wrong.
I agree with you, Dale, and at the same time, to me, they kind of sound like some spoiled kids, because it's only 6 of them, and they're like, and you know what I mean. It's not even the whole workforce. It doesn't sound like, and it's just like 6 kids. Hey, we want $18, and we're gonna pick it forever. It's just like, the entitled generation never ceases to amaze me.
Oh, you got to run these businesses though, so you got to find a way to deal with whatever generation X or Z or millennial, whatever, keep track of it.
If I'm the business,
don't have a good work ethic and don't come to work on time, you talk shit and you're a problem on the job, there's the door.
If I'm the business, you could also look at it as, hey, you know what? Now all of a sudden you have 6 workers that are standing outside with signs drawing attention to your building to everybody that's driving by. So it's kind of like having free billboard flippers.
Yeah. Well, I don't see the leverage here.
Exactly.
To try and get some business to, swallow and give you what you want. It's 50 cents more per hour. And you got 6 employees. It's like I just don't see the math there. And the Teamsters, I don't know that they're going to throw all in for this either.
Well, they haven't already, so I don't see it happening. Yeah. Anything you want to throw in on this, Nate or Stone, before we roll out? All right. Well, thank you all for joining us and getting high at 9 with us every Monday through Friday at 9 a.m. Pacific and high noon on the East Coast. And big shout out to our audience and supporters for tuning in daily and listening to the insanity that is the developing cannabis industry. Huge thank you to Catalyst Cannabis for helping us keep the lights on over here. And thank you to our correspondents for being absolutely amazing. Thank you to Cannabis Sativa L for giving us a reason to do this every day. And Cloud Media partners Elias and Kai are somewhere in the metaverse. And thank you all for tuning in and getting high at 9 with us. We are America's #1 daily cannabis news show.